All right, so my first seminar was about bulk removal, so when you need to remove a lot of material at once. This second demonstration is going to be about finer, detailed stuff, but not like Dremel detailed, just bigger items, but maybe some texturing, smaller bits, etc. And also sanding, because everyone's favorite part of woodworking is the sanding. Let me just go ahead and get started. The way I show, I have 9 different tools, all of which, any of which, could be used for this project. And it's not about this project, but how these tools kind of work. And it's something like this, where maybe it's a wavy flag where you're trying to show movement in wood, or a water droplet or something like that, or just an abstract concave thing. I call this this is like a little starfish in the ocean, something like that. And how I'm going to show it with my gloves is I've got a piece of dry sycamore over here. Well, I had it. Where did it go? It's gone.
Have you used before?
Here it is. All right. So I've got a piece of dry sycamore. Clamp this in my jaw horse, and notice whenever I put this in the jaw horse, I keep the project piece proud of the jaws. Now, a lot of these carving bits are carbide, and they can cut this mild steel, but it is not preferred, certainly. All right, I am going to create kind of a little spiral, maybe like a nautilus or something, and we'll see if I can make a project. Tool number 1 of 9, is the turbo plane. So it was the star of my bulk removal seminar. It can also be used for refining, and that means I'm going to be taking a tight concave. Now, of course, this is a 4-inch bit. You can't take a very tight concave because it's 4 inches. It's not super small. But I'm going to show you what you can do with it and the texture that it leaves. Get my ears in. Face mask on. All right. I keep stepping on my cords and my pluggies. There we go. All right. Let me start right here in the corner. So I'm just taking a little light loop. And you can see when I'm carving with the blade, I think I get tips. All right, on each section I'm going to write turbo plane, the tool that I use. At the very end I'll pass it around. All right, number 1, right there. And I could probably go a little bit deeper with the turbo plane, make a deeper concave. Let's compare the turbo plane it is a bladed tool, so you have to be mindful of grain direction on that one. 2, a rasping disc. This one's made by Kutzall, and you don't have to think about grain direction because it's just going to scratch its way through like a rasp does. Let me go right there, go around this circle. Every tool has its pro and its con. Where was that? That's all. Alright, so I'm just working my way around. There's the rasp, there's the turbo plane. So you can see the turbo plane sliced like a spoke shave would. The rasp, like a rasp would. This third one is a new to me tool. It's the newest tool that Arbortech has made, and I just got it right before Christmas. I've had very limited time with it. I haven't been able to take it home and really learn about how I'm going to use this in my shop. And this is the turbo scraper. So you can see it has a carbide tooth, 3 carbide teeth, and it is at a negative angle. So instead of slicing through the wood, it is actually scraping it like a card scraper would. This right here acts kind of like a chainsaw raker. So it's going to limit the amount of material that's removed at once. Now, in my limited use of it, I have learned that the finish it leaves it's extremely smooth. Where am I going? Right there. So it is not fast. And the teeth stand one place too long, and you will get some burning. I do not have a lot of practice at this yet. All right, this is the turbo scraper. And I apologize, sycamore is really not the best to show. That's the turbo scraper. When I pass this around, you'll be able to feel the actual texture that's left by these tools. All right, the next one that I might use, and I really love this tool. So first seminar I did today was all about the turbo plane pretty much. And that's my go-to remove a lot of material at once. My go-to remove a little material is this one. This is the mini carver made by Arbortech. And it comes with this bit. This is the bit I like the most. It didn't always have this. Once this came out, I used it all the time now. So this is the Mini Pro. It has two round carbide teeth. They are rotatable, replaceable, sharpenable. And it also comes with, I think, a sanding disc that you can put on here for different grips and everything. It's just rotary sanding. And before I forget, because I do, it's a very versatile tool. I find it very easy to use, very controllable. So it comes with that bit and a sander, but you can also get this bit. See how it's a real skinny bit? It has two kind of rounded rectangles. They're carbide and sharpenable. This bit, and then also available is a diamond blade for doing tile work or masonry. I want to start adding I have some granite chunks and I want to use those as bases for my sculptures. So I'm going to start using this guy. And then also, and I don't have one, I keep going to Wood Crafts to find one because I actually want to buy one from a store. But these rasping discs, King Arthur Tools and another company, Sabertooth, make 2-inch small rasping discs which can fit onto the Mini Carver. So there's a lot of versatility in this one little tool. And also, like, it's easy to use. It's easy to control. It doesn't try to run away. So let me make type truncate right here. And honestly, it's only a 2-inch bit, but it can remove material just particularly for its size. And sometimes I hold the actual handle, and sometimes I hold the dust fork. Oh, yeah, it comes with dust collection, which I don't use, but I've seen people use it. It does work. This is the carver. So, cuts all rasp, turbo plane, turbo scraper, mini carver. You can see it leaves ridges in there. It's definitely not as smooth as the turbo scraper, but maybe that's the texture you want to have. All right, now, I like to tell the story that, like, when my husband and I first started power carving, we got the turbo plane. That was our first tool we got. The next one was the turbo shaft. And I like to show this in this demo because it's definitely not the ideal tool to use. But you might have another purpose for this, and it can be used in a project like this. So the turbo shaft has an adjustable depth collar, but it does come off completely. It has two carbide teeth, round. They're replaceable, rotatable, sharpenable, like the other ones. And it just screws on to a standard angle grinder. This is one of the things I like. These are my actual tools from my workshop, which, by the way, is a patio and part of a carport. My sister-in-law, her husband is Air Force, and so they live on military housing. And she also does some of this same type of power carving with very limited space. And she just has one or two grinders, she has two now. A handful of bits, I think she has the mini carver. some sawhorse. You can do all kinds of things. So that's the sculptural, like wooden stoves and pumpkins, people like Halloween, and mushrooms and spoons and all kinds of stuff. Like I said, this is not the ideal tool to use for this turbo shaft. But if it's what you got, it's what you use. Turbo shaft. Not ideal, but it would do the work, for sure. All right, so we had the turbo plane. Then we got the turbo shaft. The next one we got was the mini turbo. So you can see this looks an awful lot like the Mini Pro that's on the mini carver, except that it has this piece of metal here. This allows you to use it with a template. So you could use it to make carved chair seats or signage or anything where you want to use a template. Now I don't tend to use templates. It's not a thing I do very much, but I have seen people do it. And before the next tool and before the mini carver came out, this is what I would use to make smaller concaves, smaller bowls, really get into the corners of things. So you can do this kind of like this. And I will say it's slightly awkward. I don't use this tool very often anymore because other tools have come out. Off with the grinder like that is a little bit awkward. Or you can kind of push. I definitely get a smoother cut, and this being a circle creates the rounded bottom of the furrow that I want right there. Right, that is the, right here, both of those mini turbo. There's the mini turbo, that's what I just did. And here's where I was kind of scooping, and here's where I was pushing. All right, turbo plane, turbo shaft, mini turbo. The next tool we got. And we're just getting these piece by piece. So the first turbo plane was in 2015. I think we very quickly got the turbo shaft. And then by 2017, Carbide released the ball gouge. So this is not a carbide ring. This is a high-speed steel ring. I think it's their only one that's not carbide. It is rotatable. I think you can flip it over. It is also replaceable. And I want to show, in my first seminar, I showed it. It's a very quick sideways cutter. And I showed it in a way that I use it with the grinder facing down, but usually I use it with the grinder facing up. So as it spins, it's cutting right here, right here, right here. And this is how I'm going to use it for this type of project. And like I said, it's not about this specific thing, it's about tight concaves. Where am I? Right here. on amenable pieces of wood. Not all wood takes textures very well. All right, this is the ball gouge. We're just working our way around this spiral here. So there's the ball gouge. You can kind of see the tools are getting smaller as we go. There's the ball gouge right there. And I want to show something that is comparable. So I showed the turboplane and the cuts-all rasp. Two very similar tools, but different cutting actions or different ways they carve. So I want to show something that would be comparable to the ball gouge. And that is the Carbide burr. This is a carving burr. These are tiny little Carbide teeth. It's a rasp in a spherical orientation. This one, I tend to use the ones that have 1/4-inch shanks, but they do have smaller ones that have 1/8-inch shanks that would fit into a Dremel or something like that. They come in lots of different shapes and grits, different styles of teeth. And typically 1/4-inch shank ones would be put into a die grinder. But I find die grinders to be very cumbersome and kind of bulky and awkward for me to use. So I use my trim router. It is variable speed. And I have other tools that I put sanding implements into this. And so I really like to have that variable speed so I can turn it down to minimize the burning. Now just like the larger rasp, you don't have to think about bringing it up to, but it does bring a lot of dust, and it is slower. But sometimes I just want to use that on a project. Also, this not being on an angle grinder has a different approach that you can take. When this is getting passed around, I'm going to show some projects over there. I'm going to call this a cuts-all burr. There's the burr. So I would be comparing the ball gouge, a cutting bladed tool, to the burr, which is a rasp. All right, the last one, this is kind of my smallest tool that I might use. It is not fast. You're not taking off very much with this little bit at all. And it comes as a set of 3. We're gonna bring all 3 things out. And that is the mini ball gouge. I think that is a carbide blade, steel ring. It is rotatable, replaceable. And the set is called the precision carving system. So it comes with a base and 3 attachments that screw into that base. The mini ball gouge, the barrel carver, which is basically kind of a freehand router, which cuts on the top and the side, and then also a little drum sander. And I know that these drum sanders, you can get them for Dremels and stuff like that, but attaching it to an angle grinder really gives you another level of stability when using a sander like that. All right. And as I said at the very beginning of this, any of these tools could be used to create the whole project. You don't have to use 9 different ones. It's Not removing very much at all. Not very fast. You can't even write mini ball gouge after I MBG. It's a very centermost spot right there. All right, so I'm going to let you pass that around so you can feel the actual textures that it is left. And I want to show a couple of projects, specifically this one. Just use that precision carving system. So, let me see if I can get it to stand. Drag my cord over here. I made this little lamp. This is a solid block of Osage orange, or hedge as we call it in Kansas. And to make this, it was a solid block, like I said. I started by just drawing where I wanted just an organic random shape. And I took the mini ball gouge, and I chose the mini ball gouge for a very specific reason. I wanted to go slow. I wanted to carve quick, but slow at the same time. And so I could have used a rasp. I could have drilled holes if I knew exactly where I wanted the places to hit, but my brain doesn't work like that. I could have used the bigger ball gouge to take out more faster, but again, I wanted to go kind of slow. So I took the mini ball gouge and I just carved and carved and carved, and then I'd rotate, carve and carve, and eventually I'd carve through enough that I started breaking through and creating a hollow on the inside. And I took out everything that I could with the mini ball gouge, but some places I just couldn't get enough material removed, and I did have to use one of the rasps in my trim router to get a different angle, get a different approach. And then I moved into the sanding with a little drum sander, and also another tool that I'm going to show you here in a second. For sanding, a really, really awesome sander. And to show that, I'm going to go back to my spoon carving, because we make a lot of spoons. And I've got a block here. A lot of people like to know about our spoon carving process. The mini carver is my go-to spoon bowl carving, especially for scoops. Could you use a rasp? Yes. Could you use the ball gouge? Yes. Could you use the mini ball gouge? Yes. Could you use the mini turbo? Yes. You could literally use any of those to do this exact same thing. So just because the mini carver is my favorite doesn't mean that it's necessarily the right thing for you. This in. What I'm going to do is create the tightest, deepest, kind of smallest scoop that I can make using the mini carver. And then I'm going to show you how I sand it. And that would go for sanding any of those tight concaves. Spectacular job for those who see the awesomeness of the sander. Now as you can see that flash. The carving not with the grain. Oops, that's in a little bit. Clean that up. I'm purposely not doing a very good job. The body of my grinder is now getting in the way. This is about as deep as I can make it. I want you to see, it's not spectacular, but it's okay. And before we got this sanding tool, there was a lot of hand sanding. Like this is not super fun to sand at all. So this sander is the only way that we sand scoops, we sand labels, anything where I can't get that 5-inch random orbital sander into. I use the contour sander for my grit disc. I need to replace it. It is a random action sander, so it's going to leave curly cues, not scratches and burns. Has a very flexible backer pad, and it's durable. We have 3 contour sanders because we do this. We make hundreds of spoons every year, and it was just worth it for us to have 3 of these with a coarse, medium, and fine grit, and to just unscrew and screw onto the grinder as we need it. And we've never had to replace since 2016, I think, maybe 17. We've never had to replace a backer pad. So let me sand my not so good carving job here. Some pliers. Just screws on to the angle grinder, like a lot of these tools do. You'll notice I'm not staying in one place too long. Just like a big type of tool. I didn't say the grit I have on this. It's still a slightly warm, sticky grit. I changed it a couple weeks ago. I didn't quite get out one of the gouge marks I put in there. It's a little asymmetrical. It's okay, I'll fix that later. It's a pretty fast little sander. And it's a random sander, so there's no burning or scratching. This is silver maple, by the way. And that's the sander that I would use to sand the inside of a project like the little starfish over there, or any of this. I used it on the lamp. I used it on a young man called it a unicorn skull, the weird skull-shaped sculpture I have over there. So, continuing with the spoon making, I would then bandsaw the rough profile, do any type of carving on the bandsaw like I showed you in my first seminar that I wanted to do, whatever I felt comfortable with. So here's the spoon that I started in that first seminar. And what I'm going to do is show how I might clean these up, a couple of sanding options that maybe you haven't seen before or thought about. The first one, to clean up the back of the spoon bowl, to round this over. You could certainly use hand tools, and I encourage everybody to use hand tools, especially when you're first learning about grain. Nothing's going to teach you about grain direction like spoke shapes. But this is an amazing shaper and very quick sander. And it's just a flap disc. I got this at the welding supply store down the street from my house. But it's not just any flap disc. Most of the ones at big box stores, they're either just plain flat, or they've got a real sharp angle, or they're a bull nose. I've never seen this exact profile. Let me put my frame here. This very gentle convex right here means that when I curve into stuff, especially like bowls and things, I'm not going to get gouge marks with this flap disc. Now on the outside of a spoon, a flat one might be just fine because you're not curving into things. It is very thick. This is a 60 grit, by the way. If you are so inclined and so able, if you can use a grinder one-handed, you can shape the whole thing with this flap disc. Now, I have small hands and I'm just a little person. I can't hold a grinder for that long and control it with one hand. My husband has way more experience and muscles and practice doing that. He can't. Not a whole lot, but he can do it. So to shape more, what I might use is something like this. This is what we call our traveling drum seat. At home, since we do make hundreds of spoons a year, we have a pneumatic, a Grizzly industrial kind of commercial grade pneumatic drum seater with a 3-inch drum and a 5-inch drum, and that sucker's nice. But it is big and it's expensive. It's like I think it's $600 last time we got one. This is 100-ish, give or take. It's called the Restorer, and it was designed to refinish tables specifically. But it can also, so it has sanding sleeves available, and you can also get Scotch-Brite pads. So we had a friend who found an old jointer in a barn sale, and it was all rusted and everything, and he got the Scotch-Brite pads for this, cleaned the jointer up, and so now he can use it. He got it for like 20 bucks. So. But the way we use this, because sometimes it's advantageous to take your work to the tool. Get it locked in. So we clamp it in the jaw horse. And you can actually continue shaping the outside of the spoon bowl, or maybe your baby sauce skills can work like mine. You can re-profile using the flap instead of flatten. Re-profile it a little bit. You can shape the handle. I love all those baby saw bars. You can shape the sides. Shape the back. You can really see the grain and follow the grain. That's what we like to do. Obey the grain. It's very easy. And so this isn't just about making a spoon, but maybe this is a table leg, a chair leg, a spindle for railing, anything like that. Now, obviously, that's a pretty big diameter, and you can't make a tight radius here. If you want to have a spoon with a really tight neck like this, you could use. I'd probably use not this grit, I'd use a finer grit than this, but you could get in there with a rasp and just trim in that neck. You could also use, yes, there it is, a sanding drum like this. In my trim router, that's why I like it to be variable speed, because I can turn the speed way down, minimize the burning, and then I also, as it's spinning in the trim router, I kind of create a little scrubbing action to maybe mimic that random orbital action. which minimizes the burning. And one last thing I want to add is, if you leave the handle oversized, maybe even a little bit bigger than this, something I've started doing to spoons and other things is putting textures on the handle. And yeah, this is an ice cream scoop and bonus. It looks like waffle cone. It's really cute and it's a very good seller at markets. But it has a function too. On this fly swatter, it's going to increase the amount of grip you have. So when you're really smacking, we take these outside. Tracy is severely allergic to wasps. Like he has an EpiPen for it. And so that's why it's so long. We can really smack the wasps out of, I don't like killing things, but I'd rather have my husband than the wasp. And so it helps you really hold on. But also, my mom has pretty bad arthritis. And she used to be an avid baker. So I've been creating her some fatter handled spoons and putting this texture on it so that she doesn't have to rip it so small, because store-bought spoon handles are like little tiny things. And then also this texture means she's not gripping it so hard, and she can actually do some baking, which has been a bonus. So I want to show some of the textures that I've done and the tools that I've used. And this is just an example. This is certainly not all inclusive. I've got some texture boards. I've used a couple of tools and done textures. And I'm just going to very quickly do a few of those in a random way. So I've got scrap floorboard of unknown species. It's not a domestic species, it's a tropical species. And it's already got a stain on it. And the first one I'm going to start with, because it is my favorite to make textures with, is the mini carver with the mini pro bit on it. I'm just going to do some squiggles. Random, I'm not drawing them out. I'm really not that good at planning things art-wise. I don't think I'm going to like this one. I'm not doing very good. My mom will like it though. Because moms like everything that their kids make. So you can see I got some chip out. It's a bladed tool. And I've also got, you can really see it because I've got this finish on it. So I'm not really paying attention to grain. It does have some curly figuring here in a few parts. So this may not be the most amenable piece of wood, but this is what I currently got. Now, the texture that is on the spoon and also the fly swatter handle is what I call stippling. And I put that onto bowls, I put it on pencil pots, all kinds of things. So here's my pencil pot. This is cherry, and it's got both heartwood and sapwood. So on the heartwood, I used the Mini Pro and just made some really short little squiggles, random, and then did stippling on the sapwood. And I've got 3 tools that I use however I feel. Which tool am I feeling like using today? And so I'm going to show all 3 to create stippling. So this one I have to actually stand up to carve because most of my power carving is standing up. The others, I might actually get to sit down. So do I want to sit or do I want to stand? That's sometimes a very big deciding factor in what tool I use. texture onto draw knife handles, carving knife handles, and even axes. And I'll tell you, I'm not a super fan of the way it looks, but it really reduces grip fatigue on Tracy's axes. It looks a little bit clownish, honestly, it's polka dotted, but it really does work. So there's the mini ball gouge. Again, a little bit of chip out because it's a bladed tool. And let's compare that to one of the rasps. Now, sometimes I play around with, since this is a variable speed trim router, I play around with the speeds and you can get different effects based on that. So I'm going to leave the speed up high right now. Keep stepping on the course in front of you. I saw I tightened it down with the wrench. Try again. So if you look inside, it didn't burn this one as much. Sometimes I get a lot of burning, especially on like maple and cherry. I'm going to get a decent amount of burning, but on this piece it actually kind of looks like Jupiter. So maybe that's a cool effect for it. And it's not just about creating circles. You can like draw with the rasps too. And now this next one also goes in my trim router. And it came from the welding supply store. Actually, it didn't come from the welding supply store. It came from another store that sells sheet metal and washers and bolts and rivets for a small aircraft repair and building, and also Airstream trailers and campers. And it's called Air Parts. It's down the street from my house. And this is a rotary file. So this is Carbide. It is a double cut. Bonus, you can use it to clean up the inside of axe eyes. Actually, you'd use something more like this to clean up the inside of axe eyes to get rid of the burr that's in there. Lots of different shapes, lots of different sizes. There's a tiny little sphere right there. All with a 1/4 inch shank. That's the one I want. And you can create, there it is, that same stippling effect with a metal working tool. Sitting down, I have a table with a little nylon strap through it that I use as a clamp to hold my workpieces. And on hot summer days, that's what I do. And it's somewhere between the rasp and the mini ball gouge. So there are some scratches, but not as deep as the rasp, and a little bit of burning, but kind of like cutting, kind of like scratching. It's pretty cool. And it's like, which one do I feel like using? What's my wood species that I'm using? All right, next one. I'm just going to do some random textures. Let me go ahead and use the barrel carver. I'll be honest, I don't use the barrel carver very often. Except to do texturing, honestly. There's the cross hatching. There it is, just kind of on its side. Looks like little watermelon slices I do that for those, like, or smiles. Another one, let's do something similar. I'm going to use that skinny bit. I haven't used it yet. That skinny bit on the mini carver. A little 1/8 inch one. Let's see what, I'll do some lines with it. Oh, not that one. This one. Straight up line. And you see the lines are a little bit fatter. Real quick. Now, this is just what I'm doing. This is off the top of my head really quick. I'm not planning it. There's all kinds of ways this could be used. So the lines are way fatter than the barrel carver, and also these little jelly beans. But let's finish up with the Mini Pro. It is my favorite. I like it. It's fun to use. I'm going to do two little textures with this one, and then I'll take questions. So I'm going to start with larger jelly beans. A lot of stuff out that direction. Sometimes it's like ice. If I turn it to the side, I do kind of this cozy roll space, so maybe bananas. I got a lot of chicken from this one. So I'll let you go ahead and pass that around. And of course, like, just because I like a particular tool doesn't mean that you'll like it. And the other way around too. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean you won't like it. I'm very tangled. All kinds of tools. This isn't even all inclusive. I can't include everything. Are there any questions?